I'm from the village of Githatha, and I'm an eagle, or lachskig, so that's why I was noticing your rattle. Yeah.
Is that where you grew up? That was home for you?
No, I'm the sixth of seven born to Art and Grace Vickers, and when I was born, the family moved to Gitsan Territory. So I was born in Prince Rupert.
Simshan transplanted into Gitsan Territory.
That's right. But we're all some Alex-speaking people, so.
What I didn't do was, I said Patricia, but there's a very important two-letter thing that was very, very hard to get before that, and that was doctor. So can you tell me about that journey?
It was a long one. So I started school right after I graduated and was going to go into teaching, and then got married and had children, and after tragedy, intergenerational trauma hit my family. My father abused my daughters. Then I moved from teaching into counseling. So I did a master's degree in counseling psychology, and then I began to look for healing ways in our culture, because I believed that because my father was an alcoholic and a pedophile, that's what it meant to be an Indian. And of course, inside, I think each one of us, we know it's not the truth. I didn't understand I was socially conditioned to believe that until I started the PhD. So I just used school to learn more about what is the truth. What's the truth here? So the PhD was studying our Ayau, our ancestral law, and just scratching the surface, but seeing there are so many cleansing ways and healing ways that were given to us by the Creator. So, and it took a long time to do the PhD, 13 years, because of course there wasn't a professor who understood what I was trying to do. So, but that's okay. Lots of our people understood what I was doing. Yeah. And they were generous. The elders who were alive in the late 90s. Yeah, it didn't matter to me if they were Niska or Gitsan or from home or down south where I was, Coast Salish. Ellen Crocker, she was from Shell Beach. They all had similar things to say about the beauty of our ancestral teachings.
You said you had difficulties convincing those that are part of your group because you have kind of like a peer group almost to kind of help guide you in that study.
Yes.
Was it because of Western thinking is what you were running into, or?
Yeah, and I think probably them not realizing they were socialized to believe that our rigorous ways were equal to. Yeah, so, and I know I bumped into that rigor over and over again as a psychotherapist, going to see the traditional people, like in Bellacoola, and the first thing they ask you is, who are you? Why are you here? What do you want to do? Just like that, And I'm like...
And you mentioned one word that people may or may not be familiar with, Adao?
Ayau.
Ayau?
Ayau is our ancestral law. And then what I did was I interviewed 3 fluent speakers from home, and I was looking for a dawah, which are sacred stories of transformation. And so then I had an understanding that certain adawah belong to certain houses, and the Tramsam adawah are basically general adawah. So I began to look at those because I didn't have a knowledge of my house that my mother was adopted into. There was a lot I didn't know when it came to the specifics. So I looked at the Tramsam adawah, and I began to ask questions when I came back to Prince Rupert So when we talk about change, how do we talk about that? How do we talk about shame? How do we talk about when Tramsom changed from a human into a raven form to go up through the hole in the sky to trick the chief of the heavens to get our son? So I don't remember the word now, but when I asked, what does that word mean? Does it mean like something special or transformation? They said, no, it just means to change, to shift. So this one is about retrieving the feminine. And I think perhaps all incest survivors or sexual abuse survivors have some kind of a struggle with their gender, what they were born with. And I don't know that, I think my struggle has been more that I didn't know what it meant to be female, other, than the physicality, but what does it actually mean to be female?
And, of course, with any, I guess, say, art installation, there are several different pieces. Could you kind of walk me through those different pieces and where you were when you actually created them?
Right. Well, what I did first is this book. It's not unusual for artists, as I was thinking about how am I going to express it. So I started this book, and I think it was just 2 days maybe. I began to feel it, so I wrote out things that to me were about my journey. So there's some Anglican Church liturgy in here with traditional, and then I began to know what it was I was going to say, because this part, the supernatural part, and in our adawach, the supernatural are that's what helps us to transform. So I did this book first, and then that's what kicked me off to get going. So I have 2 large supernatural pieces. It's one's an angel. It's a stone angel actually that's on one of the graves in Masset, and so I painted that one on it's on a soul catcher, standing on a soul catcher, and it's praying. So, because I think the prayers of my ancestors have really helped me to find courage, and to also be kind, to learn what being kind is, and respectful, because respect is the heart of our culture. And when we've grown up where we've suffered abuse, it's difficult to know what does respect mean then. So I would say I needed the supernatural to help me to find it and to be able to live it. Because lots of times I didn't want to live it.
And I guess you could also, because as children, we grow up with the norms that are around us.
Right.
And we think that is the normal. But it sounds like you kind of knew early on that this wasn't normal.
Right. And there's no one to tell you what you're feeling is shame. But the ugly feeling. And it's not good. And when there's sincere and undistorted love happening. As children, we know that. So, yes. So then I painted, after I painted the 2 supernatural, one it's an iconic one of Mary's, but it's not Mary. It's not the Virgin Mother, it's Mother Earth, holding out her arms, and it was like, yes, keep going deeply. Don't stop. Keep going. And then what came was the mountain that I looked out the window to when I was a child, Stigjoden, and then myself as a child. You know, when our child self is calling us to be who we really are and not to hide. And then at the center of the exhibition are all abstract pieces. And they're small, they're just 8 by 10, and they're bundles. So because the Sweat Lodge and the Fasting Lodge have been really, really strong ceremonial ways to help me to go deeply. Thanks to my brother Roy, you know, he called me into the sweat and to support him when he was coming out of a fast. So that's how I got into the sweat. So they're bundles. And the centerpiece, which is the feminine, is a stone carving from the interior Salish. And it was used for a rite of passage for females. And she's standing, and it's a beautiful carving. Her head is up and her mouth is open and her hands are here. And at the bottom is the bowl. I don't know what they put in it or what they used, but that's the center part. I would say I'm still learning as a mother and a grandmother what it is to be female. And I like it. Finally resting into it.
I guess it's a journey, a soul journey is what you really are describing.
Yes.
Because of the childhood trauma you experienced, survival instincts kick in and things get separated.
Right.
And it sounds like you're...
Yeah. And this false, you know, this PhD, whatever else. You know, it's just all... When I was younger, my looks really mattered and how I dressed. All of that was just front, you know, surface persona. Yeah. This is telling people this is who I am, but not really knowing who I was. So this little piece was the one I did for the center. So actually, it's just a sleeve, and the bell is like for awakening, you know, end of the meditation. So that's the back with little gemstones and a pearl on them. And it's soft, you know. It still has the natural kind of ragged edges, but this is also words about where I am now, and that's the center of my journey. And I think that's kind of appropriate, being a grandmother, that I finally made it to where I am, and remembering all the females, you know, my mother, my grandmothers, my aunties, my cousins who are older than me and gone now. My sister who died at birth, her name was Faith. Oh, it's like they're all in me. They're all a part of my life now. So that was the one that helped me to do the final pieces, you know, the deep ones.
Deep ones, okay. Tell me a little about that.
About depth. I think it's looking to see a person. So in my addictive behavior, I would look to see, especially in relationships, so that was love addiction for sure. I was looking and creating delusions. So now I can see when I'm doing that. And I know it's not what I want to do. I want to look to see a person, which is really helpful as a psychotherapist. Yeah. And to see my children, you know, to no longer see them as somehow a reflection of me and how well I did or didn't do, but to really see each one of them for who they are. because we're all, I think, on the other side before we're conceived. And that's a mystery to me, but we don't ever really belong to our parents. Yeah, so my children don't belong to me. They came from me, but yeah.
And as far as I understand, when it comes to part of your healing journey that you have shared with me is because of the abuse that you suffered as a little girl. You did certain things to help overcome that, and one of those, you took up tango dance.
I did. I'd been to treatment already. I went through treatment in Arizona in '91, and I knew I struggled with my sensuality, and I didn't know how to be comfortable in my own body. And so I started with ballroom, and then it just felt too rigid to me. And then somebody said, well, why don't you go and check out tango? Go take a tango lesson. And so I did that in Victoria. And I thought, this is not like ballroom tango at all. And then the lesson was finished, and I sat down, and I waited, and they said, it's called a milonga. It's a dance, so they'll come in, and why don't you stay and watch to see what the dance looks like. And so I was watching them come in, and then the music came on, and then I watched the dance, and I think I might have had to pick my jaw up because I thought, wow, that is incredibly sensual, and I don't see anyone being stupid about it. So I decided I wanted to learn, that it would help me, and it really did. It was really helpful because there's a protocol, and I like that, and I think probably men and women feel safe because of that protocol.
So it probably took a lot of courage to do that first dance.
I was scared. Yeah, it was scary. It really was, because I began to see how nervous, how afraid I really was. And then I went, how you do extremes in addiction. So from that fear to this false confidence. And then I shaved off all my hair. And that really smartened me up. And I did it to do that. I think we all know things that help us to regulate and moderate ourselves. And ceremony always helps me to come back.
It sounds like that it's always seeking that balance, because Indigenous people, especially here in the Northwest, so grounded in the longhouse, and also you still have to go out and make a living.
Yeah.
And to actually bridge those two worlds takes a lot of effort.
Yes, it does. And awareness and that's why I liked Buddhism and meditation so much, because it was teaching me something I think that my grandfather, especially Henry, had. He had, and you kind of knew it with those older people born in the late 1800s, early 1900s. They had a humor that would bring everybody back into the moment. And usually they were making fun of themselves in some way with that humor. She bids us journey.